You weren't born confused. You were born whole, aware, radiant, and unfiltered. But then, the world began its work. Layers were added. A name, a story, a culture, a fear, a dream that wasn't yours. And before long, you forgot. Not everything, just the truth. The truth of who you are beneath all this noise. The original self. This is not some spiritual poetry. This is the final key to the hidden system. Awakening the self that remembers, the self they tried to erase. Every episode until now has pointed toward this moment, from how your mind was programmed to how your frequency was distorted, how your body was blocked, your energy scattered, your soul trapped, and your perception fragmented. All of it was designed to disconnect you from the only thing that ever truly mattered. Your essence. But what is that essence? It's not your name. It's not your beliefs. It's not your traumas. It's not even your personality. It's the awareness beneath the roles, the stillness behind the thoughts, the you that's been watching everything unfold, quietly, patiently, without judgment. And here's the truth they don't want you to know. That self never left. It's been here the whole time, like a light under 1,000 veils. And the system, it's terrified of what happens when you remember. Because when you remember, you stop playing the game. You stop chasing the next dopamine hit. You stop seeking validation, approval, escape. You don't need permission. You are the source. That's what awakening really is. Not an upgrade. Not a new belief system, not a spiritual costume. It's removal, shedding, unlearning, reconnecting with the fire that was always there. And in that moment of reconnection, everything shifts. The matrix loses its grip. Time softens. Fear fades. And the mission you buried long ago, the reason you came here, rises. That's what we unlock in this final episode, not some theory. A remembrance. Are you ready? You may be wondering, if the original self is always there, why does it feel so far away? Because you've been taught to look everywhere except within. The world trains you to chase reflection, titles, likes, success, status, external enlightenment. But none of these bring you closer to your essence. At best, they decorate the cage. At worst, they reinforce it. The original self doesn't need to be achieved. It needs to be uncovered. It's the silence between your thoughts, the pause between your breath, the moment you feel something real but can't explain it, a pull, a knowing. That's it calling. But to feel it fully, you must confront the identity you've mistaken for you. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Most of what you think is you isn't. The fears, planted. The ambitions, borrowed. The pain, recycled. Even your voice, that internal narrator was shaped by the system. You were programmed to see yourself as small, broken, incomplete. So you'd seek healing in someone else's method. So you'd keep chasing products, gurus, quick fixes. But healing isn't a destination. It's a byproduct of remembrance. And what do you remember? That you were never broken. That no one can give you what you already are. That the soul doesn't evolve by addition, but by revelation. This is why the system distracts you with chaos. Why it glorifies performance and punishes stillness. Because stillness is dangerous. In stillness you hear, you see, you wake up. And when you wake up, you stop reacting. You start choosing. You re-enter the world, but not as a puppet, as a presence. This presence doesn't shout, it doesn't dominate, but it bends reality, not through force, but frequency. Because reality responds not to words, but to what you are. And what you are, when the noise falls away, is limitless. The mind won't accept this easily. It will argue. It will demand logic, evidence, steps. But the soul just knows. It always has. So the question is, will you continue asking your captor for permission to be free? Or will you finally remember you were never locked up to begin with? This isn't spiritual motivation. This is your blueprint. The deeper we go, the clearer it becomes. You were never meant to be normal. You were meant to be awake. You've probably felt it, moments where something cracked through the illusion, a dream too vivid to dismiss, a coincidence too precise to ignore, a sensation that you've lived this moment before, or that someone else's pain was somehow yours. These aren't glitches, they're echoes from your original self. The system calls them hallucinations or imagination, but they are memories from a deeper layer of your being, fragments of who you were before the mask, before the script, before the noise. The original self isn't buried under distance, it's buried under distortion. Every belief you inherited, every trauma you absorbed, every identity you built to survive, these became layers of dust over the mirror of your being. And now you're trying to see your reflection through all that static. This is why awakening isn't a lightning bolt, it's a peeling back, a stripping away, layer by layer, thought by thought. You don't find the self by adding more knowledge. You find it by letting go of everything that isn't you. But here's where it gets powerful. The more you remember, the more reality begins to shift. You start noticing synchronicities, those coincidences that align perfectly with your inner world. You start sensing people's energy, not their words. You walk into a room and feel the vibration before anyone speaks. You stop chasing validation. You become validation. Because when you're aligned with the original self, you stop begging the world to see you. You realize you were never here to be understood. You were here to remember. And when you remember, your frequency changes. And when your frequency changes, your entire timeline shifts. Old friends fall away. New ones arrive with uncanny timing. Your desires change, not because you force them to, but because your identity is no longer rooted in lack. You don't want the same things anymore. You want real. You want soul. And reality, like a mirror, responds to that. Not instantly, not always gently, but always accurately. This is why people say, the universe tests you, not to punish, but to verify. Are you still faking it, or are you becoming it? This isn't easy. There are moments of grief, of confusion, of isolation. The old identity fights to survive. The ego doesn't die quietly. It bargains, it yells, it pretends to cooperate. But if you stay centered, if you keep choosing truth over comfort, presence over performance, you begin to see the system for what it really is, a dream. A beautiful, dangerous, seductive dream. And you're not just a dreamer anymore. You're waking up. If this journey lit a spark inside you, don't let it fade. Hit subscribe to stay connected to the truth they never wanted you to find. And if a part of you knows someone else is ready to wake up, share this series with them. Because the moment we remember, we rise together. Once you begin waking up, something curious happens. The world doesn't just look different, it responds differently. Not because it's changed, but because you have. You no longer operate on autopilot. Your thoughts don't just run. Now you watch them. Your emotions don't hijack you. Now you track them. There's a pause, a space, and in that space, you reclaim power. This is where the outer begins to reflect the inner. And suddenly, the concept, as within, so without, is no longer poetic philosophy. It's a lived law. People who used to trigger you no longer do. Situations that once felt random now reveal purpose. The chaos around you, it doesn't disappear, but it loses its grip. You start recognizing that every problem is an echo of an unprocessed inner distortion. That toxic relationship wasn't just about them, it was showing you the frequency you'd normalized. That financial struggle wasn't just bad luck, it was a mirror of your beliefs around worth and flow. This is where some turn back, because it's easier to blame than to change, easier to point outward than to reflect inward. But if you're brave, if you stay in the mirror long enough to see, then the cracks become keys. You realize reality isn't punishing you, it's training you. Your reactions are feedback, your patterns are curriculum, your triggers are signposts, and most people, they never learn to read them. They stay caught in the loop, fixing the mirror instead of cleaning the reflection. They switch jobs, partners, cities, but bring the same energy with them, so the pattern repeats and repeats and repeats. But you've seen through it, so now the choice becomes sacred. Do you still want to play the role? Or are you ready to rewrite the script? Because once you stop reacting and start observing, once you stop blaming and start alchemizing, life turns into a conversation, not a battlefield. Every day becomes a feedback loop, every challenge a refinement, every moment an invitation to embody the next version of yourself. And that next version isn't someone new, it's someone remembered. The child who imagined freely, the soul who trusted without needing proof, the spark before it was dimmed. So when reality starts to shake, don't panic. Don't grip tighter, let it fall apart. What's crumbling isn't your life, it's the illusion. And beneath the rubble, stillness, clarity, the you that was never lost, only hidden. There comes a point in your journey where you stop searching for external truths and start living inner alignment. You no longer need to read 10 books to confirm what your soul already whispers. You stop chasing gurus and start trusting your own resonance. You understand, wisdom isn't out there. It's been coded within you all along. That's when everything shifts, because at this stage you don't just awaken. You begin to embody. You no longer separate your spiritual life from your real life. You meditate with your breath, but you also meditate while driving, walking, cooking. Awareness follows you everywhere, not as effort, but as presence. You become the observer even in motion. You speak less, but when you do, it lands. You don't just hear people, you feel them. And their pain doesn't scare you anymore, because you've made peace with your own. This is the return, the full circle, not to who society told you to be, but to who you were before you forgot. And in that return, something ancient awakens. Something that doesn't rely on logic, but on knowing. A deep cellular recognition that you've done this before. That this incarnation, this challenge, this body, it's one of many. And yet, it's sacred. So instead of escaping, you engage. Not as a victim of the system, but as a conscious participant. You walk through the world like a lucid dreamer, aware it's a dream, but fully in it, shaping it, influencing it. People around you may not understand. They'll still talk about politics, gossip, trends, but something in your frequency will speak to something in theirs, even if they don't know why. You become a living reminder that there's more than screens, more than fear, more than the daily grind. You don't preach, you don't convert, you become. And that becomes your message. The way you carry yourself, the way you listen, the way you see people, even when they can't see themselves. Because the true power of awakening isn't just personal, it's contagious. When you heal, you ripple. When you remember, others begin to. You don't even have to speak, your vibration does the work. And it's not about being perfect, it's about being real, authentic, awake, aligned. And if the world calls you strange, weird, too much, that's fine. The old world needs to misunderstand you, so the new one can be born through you. So here we are, 7 keys, 7 truths that weren't taught in school, weren't printed in textbooks, and definitely weren't shown in the media. Not because they're nonsense, but because they are powerful, and now you know them. But knowledge alone changes nothing. It's what you do with it. You've seen the thought matrix that shaped your beliefs. You've felt the frequency war hijacking your energy. You've remembered that your body is not just flesh. It's a receiver. You've traveled beyond form, glimpsed the maps left by ancients, questioned the cycle of reincarnation, and finally, remembered who you were before forgetting. But here's the twist. This wasn't just a journey through hidden truths. It was a mirror. Everything you discovered was already inside you, buried beneath years of noise, numbing, and narratives that were never yours. And now that the fog has cleared, there's only one question left. What reality will you build? With your mind awake, your energy reclaimed, and your soul unlocked, you can go back. Pretend this was just another video series. Numb yourself again with algorithms and distractions. That door is always open, but so is the other one, the one that leads to real inner authority, to self-mastery, to being fully alive. And here's the secret. Most people won't choose that door, because awakening isn't easy. It requires sacrifice, the sacrifice of illusion, of comfort, of fitting in. But for those who do choose it, there's no turning back. You begin to notice different patterns. You attract different people. Your choices shift, not out of force, but out of resonance. You don't try to live differently. You are different, and you carry that frequency into the world, quietly, powerfully, unapologetically. So here's your invitation. Go back. Watch the parts you missed. Revisit the questions that made you uncomfortable. Let them linger. Let them echo. Because true transformation doesn't happen in a single viewing. It happens in reflection, in repetition, in remembering. And if this 7-part journey stirred something inside you, it's because it's time. Not to add more knowledge, but to live it. This isn't the end. This is activation. So share this with the ones ready to wake up. Reread what resonated. Stay curious, stay grounded, stay free. And above all, remember, you are not the story you were given. You are the one who chooses how it ends.